Hi, hello and welcome from wherever you join me today. Yes, it's me again, Jim Black from the Three Hats Stage Media channel, trying to provide entertaining content media for all the world's stages. This is a Pause for Thought edition, where I review one of my favourite movies and see what messages we can take from it and how we can use those insights in today's busy lives. They all come from a book or screenplay, have a great cast and a fantastic soundtrack. As you can see from the lightbox to my side, today's movie is no exception. It's from 2015 and it's The Lady in a Van. It's from the memoir of Alan Bennett, and he also wrote the screenplay. It started life as a play on the West End before it became the movie. You may also know him from The History Boys, The Madness of King George and the Talking Heads series, which I suggest you watch because they are very good. There's an all-star cast with Maggie Smith. She plays the lady in a van and she's got 85 acting credits to her career so far. From the prime of Miss Jean Brodie to Harry Potter as Professor McGonagall, from Downton Abbey, TV series and movie, and I believe there's another one coming out at some time soon. And my favourite movie of hers is Sister Act. Alex Jennings, he plays Alan Bennett himself, and he's been a duke, a prince, 2 kings, a commander, a QC and a reverend in his TV and movie career. Roger Allen plays Rufus, and he's been in things such as The Missing, Endeavour, Ashes to Ashes, and he's the voice of Death in the movie version of The Book Thief. Frances Delator plays Mrs. Vaughan Williams, Gwen Taylor plays Alan's mum, and then you've got David Calder, who plays the brother of the lady in the van. The Jim Broadbent, he plays Underwood. He was Professor Slughorn in the Harry Potter series, and he was on one of my movie reviews recently as Mr. Boo in Little Voice. So I ask, is it right? Would you be kind enough to stop and help somebody, even if they were in a van? And if not, why not? Let's get into the plot and find out. Are you kind enough to stop and help somebody if you thought they needed it, or even if they asked you, whether they were in any type of transportation or not? Or are you one of those people that would just simply pass them by and pretend that you didn't hear them? Your life's important. By stopping and helping, what could that possibly do? Apart from upset your day. Surely other people will stop and help if you don't. But that person that's asking for help needs that kindness that you can give to change their day. It might even change their life. Alan Bennett lives on Gloucester Crescent, Camden Town, a quiet little leafy suburb in North London. One day, a lady in a van turns up and parks on the Crescent. This is a story set over 15 years, and it's about the relationship between Alan and the lady in the van. So let's take a look at the plot and see how the story unfolds over that time period. Another favourite of mine. And as long as it's well written, well acted and a good little story, then it'll always make the favourites pile. This is a feel-good movie, although it deals with serious issues such as depression, anxiety, resentment and remorse, to name but a few. Things that we all have to deal with as we go through our lives. It starts in 1974 on Gloucester Crescent when an old lady in a van turns up for no reason whatsoever. Her name is Miss Shepherd, and she stops on the Crescent and needs some help. She needs a push because the van's conked out. It's a very old van. It's almost like a rubbish tip on wheels. But it's her home as well. But we'll find out that as we move on. Alan Bennett's out in the street at this moment, and she asks him to push, which he does because he's a kind man. He thinks that it'll bump start, she'll get on her way, and that'll be the last they see of her. Little did he know, and we've heard that many times, that it was going to be 15 years before she did go. He pushes her, and she comes to a rest just outside his house and puts the handbrake on. There's a discussion with the neighbours, who are a little bit resentful, and why would this, old woman, scruffy, almost tramp-like, want to park on their beautiful Crescent? The reason that we find out later in the movie is because there's a Catholic church very nearby, and Miss Shepherd has got some dealings with it from when she was a younger person. So she begins to live there in a van in a way that's not suitable for most people. But it's what she's done for the past many years, and she's happy with it, as long as people leave her alone. Would you be happy with an old van parking outside your house that you didn't know? Another resident offers to give her a new van. Well, a newer van, which she accepts. The old van gets towed away and the new van gets filled up with all the same old stuff. After a bit of time, we find out that people come and shake the van and do all sorts of bad things because they don't understand who she is and what she is. We all do it, and we're all guilty of it, and we should stop and think sometimes. So Alan decides to put the van on his drive, out the way, so it doesn't interfere with anybody else. The way the movie is done, there's two Alan Bennetts, and basically it's him talking to himself. You know, his conscience, I suppose, asking him questions, and there's some great little conversations between the two of them. I wonder if Alex Jennings got paid twice for it. I'll have to ask him next time I see him. Alan's quite a lonely man. He indulges in his writing and things like that. But it also shows men that visit his house. And why would they possibly be visiting him in his North London home at all hours of the night? Miss Shepherd just can't work that out. Miss Shepherd buys a three-wheeler van. Not sure how, but it's one of those little Reliant Robins, and off she goes to Broadstairs in Kent, where she goes to see a man. She has to go to the shed when she turns up, because that's their agreement. We don't know who he is yet, but we will find out later on. The movie depicts different stages of her life, and it's done in such a way to move through time, using things such as the Jubilee to represent that we've got to 1977 from 1974. Then there's things on the TVs, in the radio rentals on the High Street in Camden Town that you see that are different events. And this is like Notting Hill, one of my previous reviews, where they use a market through 4 seasons to represent a year moving through. There's some great dialogue between all the residents of the Crescent. They accept her as like a local because she's been there for so long. And now she's on Alan's drive, you know, she's not causing any trouble to the street. We see a little bit of their lives happening and how it interacts with hers. And she's a grumpy old woman most of the time. Why does she live in that van? What's the remorse that she holds? Why must she be like she is? There's obviously something from her past that's changed her into the woman she is now. There's also great scenes between health workers, social workers, doctors, and they all have to do it stood outside the van. Because after all, that's her residence. There's certain things that living in a van restricts you from, but Alan's kind enough to let her use his facilities every now and again, and also his address as to where she lives, so at least people can come and see if she's doing okay. There's lots of stories, there's lots of bits of information that Miss Shepherd passes on, and this is how we work out who she really is. There's a man called Underwood, a policeman from the past that keeps coming to see her every now and again. He's blackmailing her, but why is he blackmailing her? Again, that's a part of the end of the story, which I'll get to shortly. Alan realises that Miss Shepherd isn't very well. We're getting towards the end of the 15 years now. So he calls the doctor. The doctor comes to see her, and obviously she doesn't really want to go anywhere. But they take her to a day centre where they can look after her, clean her up and give her a once over and see what's really going on. They give her a bath, new clothes, and she smells a lot better. When she's having dinner at the day centre, a resident recognises her. Margaret Fairchild, isn't it? This really upsets Miss Shepherd because this is the name that she's hiding under and she doesn't want to be recognised. So she escapes the day centre and goes back to her van. It's now late at night and Alan opens the van door to find Miss Shepherd lying there, all clean and tidy, peaceful and serene. He's got a bunch of flowers in his hand. I've had bigger bunches than those. I'm not dead, am I? She says. And she asks him if he will hold her hand, to which he agrees. It's a really nice part of the movie between the two people that have sort of become friends over those 15 years. Something passes between them. We move to the next morning when the social worker turns up and she opens the van door and she finds that Miss Shepherd has passed away in the night. Alan's very upset because he should have been the one that found her and he didn't, but it's probably for the best. So this is where the story is going to conclude. The van's going to be taken away, things are going to be cleaned up and tidied up, and life's going to go back to some sort of normality. But what would be normal after 15 years of knowing the lady in the van? During the time that she was in the day centre, Alan had gone to visit her real life brother, which he found out through different things that's been said and done. He tells her the story of Miss Shepherd. Well, Margaret, that is. How she used to be a pianist, learnt with the top people in the world, worked in Paris, and she also was a nun. But it's the nuns that took everything out of her and said that music was bad and praying was good. When she escaped from the nuns, there was an accident. And the accident killed a young man that was travelling too fast on a motorbike. The spoiler alarms are going off, so I can't tell you any more. Just watch the movie right to the end. It tidies everything up and concludes in a very nice way, even though there's been all those issues over those 15 years. As we go through life, if you see people that need help, stop and help them. Even if they say they don't need it, at least you've asked. You may change their day, you may change their life, but don't pass them by. What if you needed help and people just kept passing you by? That would be different, wouldn't it? They'd be all ungrateful and horrible people because they haven't helped you. So think every day. Show kindness where you can, appreciation for what's around you, and talk to people and let them talk to you while you listen. There's some really great trivia in this movie. Did you know on Gloucester Crescent in Camden Town, at the house where Alan Bennett lived, there's a plaque on the wall. It says Miss Shepherd lived here from 1974 to 1989, and you can stop and take photographs if you want to. Did you also know that many of the residents who were depicted as characters in the movie are real residents? And yes, a lot of them still live there. The final bit of trivia I have for you today is one of those coincidences. 20 of the cast of Lady in the Van also appeared in The History Boys, another thing by Alan Bennett, with the exception of one, Richard Griffiths, who sadly passed away in 2013. However, the boy that plays Sam Perry, guess what his name is? Yes, it's Richard Griffiths. And when the widow of Richard found out, she thought it was a sign. And it certainly was, because it's a great movie. The music in this movie is classical. It's a great soundtrack. And if you don't like that sort of music, give it a go. It might change your mind. It's just as good as any other reviews for the soundtracks that I've done on previous movies. You've got Beethoven, Schubert, and Chopin. And at the end of the movie, there's a young girl, or woman should I say, who's depicting Miss Shepherd in her early years. It's Hannah Watson. And for those of you that want to know what she's playing, it's Impromptu in G-flat major, Opus 90, number 3. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you want to know where my thoughts and inspirations come from, please click on one of the links in the bio below. They'll take you for a closer look. If you want to join our community, then subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell if you want to know when the next one's being uploaded. Comments are always welcome. Drop them below and I'll get back to you as and when I can. I've been Jim Black for the Three Hats Stage Media channel for this edition of Pause for Thought. See you again soon.